Oh hey, I didn't notice you there. Welcome back to History Today, where we'll be discussing Jews and women and their roles in society in the 18th century. We'll go deeper into it with our specialist, but for now, let's get right
In
into
some
it.
respects, they were better treated than Calvinists. Under the laws of a monarchy, Jews could legally practice their religion, although their other activities were severely restricted. And this happened in the city of Bordeaux in the southwest and the regions of Alsace and Lorraine in the east.
In 1787 and 1788, the Royal Society of Arts of the city of Metz in eastern France actually set up an essay competition with the question, are there means of making the Jews happier and more useful? One of the winners was Zalkin Horowitz. His pamphlet actually earned a reputation in reformist groups, and he wanted to counter Jewish stereotypes with his pamphlet. In his pamphlet, he stated that he encouraged the conversion to Christianity. Now that I've talked about Zalkin Horowitz, we're going to take a deeper look into his actual document, and what he stated was the basic things that must be done for Jews to be admitted into society, the French society.
So the first point would be that the allowance for permission.
Allowance for
Permission. And to conclude, we can add that the freedom of the Jews is the best means of converting them to Christianity, which would render useless the temporal Messiah that they expected, which would also obligate them to recognize Jesus Christ as the spiritual Messiah and not contradict the prophets of the time. And as well, to make sure to recognize a Jew as a man, it would be unjust to punish him from his birth onward for real or supposed vices that one reapproaches in other men with whom he has nothing in common but religious belief. And so we can relate this with a question that could have been proposed by the Academy of Stockholm 12 years ago. Are there means for making Catholics more useful and happier in Sweden?
My co-host, Andrea.
Alright, and now we will be focusing on the petition of women in the third estate to the king. To elaborate on this matter, I will pass it over to Bianca and Brittany, who are two historians on women's history.
Okay, so today we're going to be talking about women's history, and specifically we're going to be focusing on the petition of women of the third estate to the king, January 1st, 1789. So little is known about the grievances of women and their ideas leading up to the meeting of the Estates General. They do not have the right to vote, meet, or have a voice in society. Throughout the petition, they emphasize the point that they do not wish to overturn men's authority.
At the time, prostitution was a time where women were able to support themselves financially. However, this was purely by circumstance, and they often pled the king to be able to give them an education where they could learn of sciences, literature, and God.
Women asked the Tsar to allow them to have jobs where men would have no jurisdiction. In other words, to exercise trades that are the prerogative of women, whether as a seamstress, embroiderer, or millinery shopkeeper. In other words, they would not handle a compass or square, meaning that they would not have any interference in war or land affairs.
Women in the 1700s were typically disadvantaged if they were a part of the third estate. And being a part of the third estate typically meant that these women were born uneducated and they were not susceptible to all the opportunities that those in the higher estates had. Continually, there was like a corrupt marriage system, and it involved women who were born beautiful or deemed beautiful and those who were not. So women who were deemed beautiful, they basically were put into relationships, and typically their men or the other partner must pay a dowry, which means that they must contribute something to the family of the bride. And the corruptness of this was that if a woman is deemed beautiful, then there would be no dowry payment versus those who were not beautiful. However, some men favored and found it a little bit easier to go after women, but instead of actually staying in the relationship and breeding children and raising future children, they found it easier just to buy, and this is buy their services from women, which is basically what we know now as prostitution. But despite all of the corruption, there developed an idea in the 1700s that we should start respecting women. And in order to respect women, the idea was that women would not be placed or should not be placed in situations or jobs that would not pay them enough, or the physical labor required is too much for the woman to handle in comparison to what a man can handle.